On today's Apple Daily, security updates, iMac Pro is a bit more discontinued than it was yesterday, which new Apple products are ready to ship, breaking down the last 3 digital events to see what to expect from this one, MARCHintosh and ICave Answers.
For the latest Apple news, rumors, and leaks, every weekday at 12 UTC, join us in the iCave.
And we've got a lot to get through, so let's get right into it. So first of all, security updates, iOS 14.4.1, the same with iPadOS, and a few other bits has been released yesterday by Apple, and it is patching a security issue with WebKit, which has been discovered. So go ahead, install it. There shouldn't be any other kind of compatibility stuff, but there is a fairly nasty WebKit vulnerability that they are fixing. So go and make sure you do that one. Next up, iMac Pro is a bit more discontinued than it was yesterday. So obviously we told you yesterday, and this was based on news that came out late on Friday, that Apple was calling the iMac Pro while stocks last. It's now currently unavailable in the US and Canada. We're getting more clues right now that we are going to be seeing the refreshed iMacs pretty soon. Now, that doesn't mean immediately, but that means in the next couple of months at least. And we will be talking about what is likely to come at each event very, very soon. As we got that event drop yesterday from Jon Prosser, it looks pretty confident that we will be getting our event on the 23rd, which is great to know because now we can kind of plan around it a little bit, and I can talk about what we're likely to see. Jon Prosser himself has reported that ready to ship right now, sitting in the warehouses, are AirTags, iPads Pro, AirPods and Apple TV, which are all ready to go. Now, add to that, we've also got iOS 14.5, which, as I mentioned yesterday, has got a whole bunch of new features that will need to be introduced properly. These are not the sort of things that you can just kind of roll out at a point update and hope people know about, because they integrate with new products. So things like the AirTags. And obviously, if we are to get new AirPods, those will need to be supported in the software too. Plus, if we are getting any kind of Mac coming, as they are likely to come out with m1x processors. So from the amount of stuff that we've got right now, it looks like we're going to get at least a couple of events in the coming months, which is fantastic. So to work out what we're likely to see and at which events, let's have a look at what we got in September, because these are not full keynote events as we're used to, where you get everyone up on stage and they talk for a bit, and then you get an update on the whole company stuff from Tim and all the rest of it. This is not what we'll be getting. We'll most likely be getting more digital events as we got at the end of last year. So the first event that we got last year after WWDC, which was the first kind of all-digital thing, but not a sales product event. This was a software event. The first one that we got that was a physical product event was September, and that introduced Apple Watch SE and 6. It introduced Apple Fitness Plus and Apple One, and then the iPad and the iPad Air refreshes. And that event took 64 minutes. After that, we got the October event, which contained HomePod Mini, iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 Pro. That was 70 minutes. And then we got November, which was Big Sur, M1 MacBook Air, M1 Mac Mini, and M1 MacBook Pro, and that took just 48 minutes. So basically what we're saying here is we're looking at around an hour. And these events are typically putting in like maybe one piece of software and 2 or 3 hardware pieces, but not completely different categories, so they're kind of grouped quite well together. So let's assume that we've got that amount of stuff to come that we've just mentioned. So we've got AirPods, AirTags, iPads Pro and Apple TV, plus iOS 14.5 and some sort of Mac with M1x. That's definitely 2 events worth of stuff. Now, the Macs with M1x could be MacBook Pro, they could be iMacs. I think the chances are more likely to be iMacs at this point because of what we've been seeing with the rest of the supply chain issue stuff. Although we did get leaks before Apple Silicon originally came out that the 16-inch was also in production with Quanta Computers, separate from the other MacBooks that were released. But having had the LG ultrafine displays deleted from Apple's European stores at least, which we thought was possibly to do with power consumption, but it's also possible that they've just taken them out because they don't want them anymore. 21.5-inch iMacs having their customization options removed, and the iMac Pro now being made unavailable in the US and Canada, I feel like we're probably looking at the iMacs and probably an external display. But if we're going to be getting iPad Pros in March, I think we're going to be looking at April for the iMacs. That's my best estimate, and I know that's kind of annoying. It would be great if we get them in March as well. Maybe we are just going to get some bumper event, and that'll be fantastic too. But here's how I think it will go down. I think in March we will get Tim Cook opens up, he does his introduction. He introduces the privacy features of iOS 14.5, the app tracking transparency, and also the work that they've done to allow your Apple Watch to unlock your iPhone when you're wearing a mask. Those are a couple of big features that definitely make sense. Then we hand over to someone else, possibly Craig Federighi, possibly one of the hardware guys, to talk us through AirTags. AirTags is probably going to take, I don't know, 20 minutes to get through because we're looking at a completely new product category, but also one that doesn't do a huge amount of things at the moment, as far as we're aware, beyond locating your stuff. So it's going to be a demo of how the technology works, what the U1 chip is, and then a little bit of a demo of the software in action. Pretty cool. We might have a bit of a treasure hunt around Apple Park. That would be quite fun. Then we move on to iPad Pros. They talk about how the A14X brings all the power of M1 to the iPad for the first time ever. We get a bit of a demo. We get to see the new updated designs. We're not expecting these to change shape or size at all. What we are expecting is possibly some refinements to the camera module and quite possibly our new mini LED displays and 5G chips inside, as well as the A14X, which they might call an M1, but I really don't think they will. From there, we've also heard that there are rumours of a refreshed version of the iPad's Magic Keyboard and Trackpad case, so that could well come along as well. It sounds like the whole iPad is going to be very slightly thicker, like 0.5 millimeter thicker, and might have to have the magnets rearranged. So that's the only thing that might come accessory-wise. They might just mention that at the end. I don't think it's going to be a big deal, but they've never done a big kind of deal release on the Magic Keyboard and Trackpad, even though reviewers absolutely went crazy for it last year when it first came out. So I think that would be enough to wrap up the March event. Then we move on to our April event, and what do we have left? We have M1 Max, so probably the iMac. I don't think that would be first up. I think we would be looking at probably the AirPods first, then we would probably move on to the iMacs, and then we would move on to the display panel. The display is going to be derived from the iMac, so they won't want to reveal that before they've revealed the iMac, because that's the big deal. And they can also talk about M1X. They might even talk about that M1X will be released in laptops as well, in notebook computers, in MacBook Pros, in like 4 weeks' time, something like that. Maybe they will start pre-orders early for these. But I have a feeling that we're going to get the iMacs first, and then we're going to get the MacBook Pros coming after that. But maybe we'll get it all together. Who knows? So those are my predictions for what we will be seeing at those events. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are on that. Have I missed out any products? Oh, Apple TVs. They will probably come as well at the second event. Also, Apple TV likely to come at the second event in April, I would guess, purely because the first one seems a little bit too busy right now, and also I feel like the Apple TV might get spatial audio support along with those AirPods 3rd generation. They may get the spatial audio support as well, so that it kind of ties in together. You can do the two things at the same event, and it makes sense. Now, yesterday I just kind of did a throwaway thing at the end of the episode called MARCHintosh, which is talking about the MARCHintosh movement, which is not something that I've created. It is a much wider thing, so go and head over to MARCHintosh.com to find out exactly what's going on. And if you are a content creator of any sort as well, you can get involved and search for the MARCHintosh hashtag across different social media platforms so you can see exactly what's happening. But I did ask, what is the oldest bit of Apple kit that you are still using? Now, MARCHintosh is supposed to be Intel, but I still think it's really interesting to see kind of what people are using. But there are some good ones mixed in here, including PowerPC stuff. So, I'm going to absolutely fire through this. I'm not going to read the whole comments, just so you know. So, starting off with John Wade, old things become hand-me-downs to the kids. My old iPad 2 is pretty long in the tooth these days. Max Goodman, I have a 2009 white MacBook that's still used daily, but primarily as a Spotify input for a stereo. Paul Davidson is still using a 2008 iMac. Thomas Rundle, a 2007 20-inch iMac for watching films from disc, so I guess DVD player. Linda Lawson, this is a great one. I'm using a PowerBook G4 connected to a Sonos SP100 as a CD player in my office. Phil Rosa Leak, MARCHintosh. My daily runner is my Dino, a mid 2007 20-inch iMac, 2.4 GHz Intel Core 2 Duo processor. Franz Baum, I still use an iMac 2006 White OS Snow Leopard for browsing the internet, saving up for my Mac Mini M1. We've got quite a few people here that are saving up for M1 Max as well. Skull Gamer Rishi, Marcintosh, I'm using a 2014 MacBook Air as my daily machine, but looking to upgrade to an M1 or M1X MacBook. Creative Kids, I'm still using an old graphite iMac keyboard because my newer wireless one died, and I actually refurbished one of those just the other day, but it's the red or pink style. The Duke of Kidderminster is using a 2002 titanium MacBook Pro with OS 9 and 10.4 that I use for playing old games. Age of Empires 2 is still my favourite ever made. But yeah, we've got a few PowerPC users still out there. Now I've got quite a few bits and bobs like that, so as you guys know, I've got the PowerMac G4 Cube over there. That's all working. That works absolutely fine. We've used that in a live stream before. Up top, we've got a G3 clamshell iBook, which again works perfectly, and a Newton eMate 300. Excitingly enough, does do handwriting recognition using almost exactly the same gestures and controls as Scribble for the iPad. So if you want to see any more of these things, let me know. We can do some videos around these. Also, the sound sticks, which are my regular speakers, they are actually from around the same time, I believe, as the G4 Cube. And they were designed by Johnny Ive with Harman Kardon. I've also got up in my loft a G4 iMac, a G3 iMac, a couple of eMacs, which are like G4 iMacs but with CRTs. There's a G5 tower, a G4 tower, and a G3 tower. But yeah, I've got a whole bunch of stuff up there. Pretty much all works. So if there's anything in particular you want to see, we can grab some of that down. I was also using, with this iMac, I was using a 22-inch Cinema Display HD, which is the polycarbonate one as well, as a secondary display because, again, 1920 by 1200 display. It's a nice 16 by 10 display. Really good picture quality. It's got a bit of a scratch down it because children, but it's a really good display, and I think that cost me about 40 quid. If you do want to see videos on any of that stuff, let me know and we will make it happen. For MARCHintosh, I feel like we should do Mactober later in the year as well. Notification Squad, Cian Moran and Emily Chambers, thank you for joining the Notification Squad. And if you want to join the Notification Squad, you can. All you need to do is like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss a thing. And when you've done that, you comment down in the comment section with hashtag Notification Squad. And then I will know to give you a shout out in the next video. So we've got a whole bunch of ICave Answers again, and we're going to blast through these quite quickly today. So, starting off with Souvik Mukherjee, ICave Answers. Hey David, what colour options would Apple give to consumers with the 12S and 12S Pro models? Hashtag hit the subscribe button. So this year, new colours. Oh, interesting question. So I would love to see a purple, as you can probably imagine from the stuff that I do on this set. I can't imagine that's going to be in the Pro. I think that's probably going to be one of the colours that they bring out for the regular one. We're always going to get black and white, I think. We're always going to get a product red, so we've got two others to play with probably. I think a purple would be great and a yellow. But I would also like to see them mix and match some of the colours. So I would like to see yellow back with space grey edges. I think that would be really cool, and I think if they decided to mix and match them this year, that would be a really cool way of kind of differentiating this range. In terms of the Pros, I think there's been a few people that have been looking at like a copper colour possibly. I think we've had a blue, we've had a green. I feel like we're going to either get a red because we always have a gold, so I think we could probably get a stainless steel red. That would look hot. Next up, Greg West. Dave, I love your channel and your brief, focused, fascinating topics. This particular video made me want to learn more about how iOS devices use storage in relation to the Files app and iCloud. Could you do a quick lesson on how storage is managed and how iCloud syncing of files, including music, books, and photo, is managed? Thank you. That's going to be a kind of involved one. But to give you a really quick overview, there's a couple of different ways. So music, they have a couple of different systems. So for iTunes Match, which is probably the way that it puts your own stuff into the cloud, Apple will analyze all of the tracks that are in your music library. If it can identify them as something that it has copies of in Apple Music, then it will link them so that when you want to listen to them, it will basically play the Apple Music version of it. And I think it upgrades your library as well to better quality tracks if they exist. Photos, there's different ways of doing that. You can have your whole photo library on your Mac, or you can have everything on optimized storage and you can keep everything at the full resolution in the cloud, and it will just grab those down, and all it keeps on your devices are thumbnails. Books, basically everything's kept in the cloud until it's required, especially if you need to free up space on your devices. In terms of the other files, it's basically a copy is kept in iCloud and then downloaded to your other devices when there's space and you're connected to Wi-Fi. Next up, the waff ball. ICave Answers, how long do you think the Lightning port will survive? As long as ports on the phone will survive. Lightning is going to stick around basically until we don't have ports on the phones. Apple is not going to put USB-C on their iPhones. It's not happening. It's not coming. They might swap it for the MagSafe stuff that we've seen patents for, which basically looks very much like regular MagSafe for the old style MacBooks, but attached to the bottom of a phone. I don't even think that that is likely particularly. I think we're more likely to get a smart connector style on the back of the iPhones that you can attach to if you need to for servicing and things like that. But yeah, Lightning is not going away to be replaced by USB-C, at least. William Philippe, Dave, on the naming policy, there are certain legacy issues that preclude Apple from uniformity across the various products. iPad is iconic. Changing that to iPad SE would negate that. iPhone SE did not replace the iPhone moniker, as that would be sacrilege. Also, do you envisage that Apple will have iMac SE, MacBook SE, Apple TV SE? ICave Answers. Very interesting question. I have made a whole video on how Apple could kind of unify their naming conventions. They're definitely going to keep the I's for certain things like iPhone and iPad, and probably iMac, but that's one of the few that I think iMac could actually get a name change, because Apple doesn't put I's in front of things anymore. I think the last thing that Apple put I in front of was iCloud. Since then, everything has been Apple something. So I don't think it's going to be Apple Mac, but it could be something different. But in terms of the iPad SE, I would expect that the base model becomes the iPad SE, and then the iPad Air that we have now becomes iPad, because the iPad was never as cheap as the iPads are now. It came out, I believe, $500, and then came down to $400, and then the Air came back in at $500, and then the Minis came in cheaper. They came in at $330, I think, originally, and then they swapped places. Like, it's a complete mess on which product's meant to be in what space with the iPads especially. So I think actually bringing in an SE so people know, this is the value option, that would make sense. In terms of whether they'll have iMac SE, MacBook SE, and Apple TV SE, 2 out of 3, I guess. I wouldn't say iMac, I would say Mac Mini SE would be more likely. MacBook SE, yes, probably based on an Air. Apple TV, no. But I think they will have an SE desktop and an SE MacBook that will probably keep M1 processors at the end of the year when M2 arrives, and just drop price. Makes all the sense in the world. But they can also probably reduce the storage down to like 128 on those to make it a real entry-level thing. Especially on the Mac Mini, that really wouldn't make a difference because you can hang as much storage out the back of it as you want. I've just added 6 terabytes to this thing. Souvik Mukherjee asks, what would the pricing be for the AirTags? Hashtag hit the subscribe button. Honestly, we don't know. It looks like Tile's, I think, and Samsung's things come in at around about $30 each, or a 2-pack for $50. I can see Apple going at maybe $39 and $69 for the 2-pack. We'll see. $69 seems to be a reasonable-ish price point for me, assuming they have better functionality than those others. But we don't know what they're going to do yet. We don't know whether you recharge them or whether you put a battery in them. So there's too much to know to be able to give you a pricing point, but that would be my guess. Kevin Thomas asks, ICave Answers, I'm planning to get the upcoming iPad Pro. Weird question, how do I protect this expensive piece of hardware before the release of new cases and screen protectors? This is my first Apple product. Well, congratulations and welcome to the family for starters. In terms of protecting your device, number one, the iPads are not particularly delicate. It depends really how much you want to wrap it in bubble wrap, but it's a thing that you're going to use to work with. It does turn out that in most cases, the case manufacturers do get blanks ahead of time, whether that comes kind of on the grey market from the manufacturing side, or whether Apple actually issues out blanks that are under NDA and used for making these cases, but you normally don't have to wait at all to get these things. They're probably already available on the market right now. That being said, in terms of screen protectors, it's probably not going to change in dimensions on the screen at all, so you should be able to use the ones that you can grab now. In terms of cases, we have heard that they might be very slightly, I mean like 0.5 millimeter thicker, and that's because of the mini LED display technology that they're going to be using. So I would hold off on that. I wouldn't just pick something up yet, but just wait and see. I think we're going to be safe. Ordinary Tech asks, should I get an M1 MacBook now, or should I wait for the M1X? My birthday is at the end of March. I've seen many videos on this topic. What should I do? I'm a kid and won't be the one buying, but what do you think? M1 now or M2/M1X? I've always been a Mac fan. What would you recommend? For moderate to professional use, or should I get an iPad? Wow, so many questions. Right, which one should you get? If you're doing moderate to professional use, you should be fine with an M1, to be completely honest. We've made a video on the differences between what the M1, the M1X, and the M2 are going to be, but basically the M1 is 4 of each cores from the A14 chip, so 4 high-powered and 4 high efficiency. When we get to the M1X, that's going to be 4 efficiency and 8 high-powered, and when we get to the M2, it's going to be 4 and 4 again, but it's going to be from the faster iPhone. So it's probably going to be between 20 and 24% faster, something like that. M2 is not the faster high-powered one. M2 is the next efficiency chip. M1X and then M2X will be the high-powered chips. But they will also come with a higher price tag and probably more battery drain. So just be aware of those things. But yeah, for your use case, probably an M1 would be absolutely fine. Depends how soon you need it. If you need it before the end of the year, I would probably pick it up fairly soon. But if you can wait, you should always wait. If you don't need something right now because you've got something else, then you don't need to replace it straight away. And that's, the longer you can wait, the better thing you will get when you actually get one. In terms of should you get an iPad, again, depends on your use case. You're saying professional use. If that's coding, you probably want to get a laptop. If it's video production, it could actually go either way. The iPad is really good for video editing now, especially if you use something like LumaFusion, but it depends what professional means to you and if there's apps that will support what you need to do. So that's it for this show. If you have any more questions that you want to ask me, hashtag ICave Answers down in the comments, and I will get to your questions. If you want to join the notification squad, hashtag notification squad, and make sure that you've subscribed and rung the bell. That's what that means. And yeah, that's it. See you tomorrow.